At the end of World War II, a failed kamikaze pilot must lead the charge to take on Godzilla, a giant lizard monster headed for Tokyo. There are close to 40 Godzilla movies, making it one of the longest-running franchises of all time. When this movie dropped out of nowhere, I fully expected it to come and go with little fanfare. I admittedly had never been a huge fan of Godzilla. I know I've seen the original, and I've seen the 1990s version with Matthew Broderick, and I've seen the Godzilla footprint from that original in Hawaii, and I've also seen the 2014 version with Bryan Cranston. But those other 35 or so movies, I don't think I've seen, which is why I plan to skip this movie as well until the universally rave reviews came out. The movie was released in color and in black and white. Now, I happened to see it in black and white, and I'm told that that's the better and the scarier version of the two. Godzilla Minus One takes place before the original movie, so that makes it a prequel, and I think that's where the minus one in the name comes from. What makes Godzilla Minus One stand out of the crowded film of Godzilla movies is that it focused more on the human element and their struggle, and just so happens to, on top of that, feature a giant radioactive lizard who's destroying everything. Our hero is a disgrace as he chickened out and couldn't carry out his kamikaze duties. People back home are offended by his cowardice, but his village was destroyed and his family was killed, so he has a lot going on before Godzilla even shows up. He befriends a woman who's looking after a baby that isn't her own, and that is the setup for the movie. There is a lot of emotional weight to the main characters. The story alone is pretty intriguing, and it would have worked well as just a straight drama, but this is a monster movie, and that monster happens to be the most famous monster of all time. Somehow the filmmakers pull off making Godzilla instantly recognizable, but also more intimidating than ever. The sound in the movie is intense. Now, I hate to be that old guy, but in the theater, I think maybe they could have turned down the volume just a hair. Every time Godzilla would roar, I nearly have to cover my ears. This is a relatively low-budget movie, but I never once didn't believe what I was seeing. Maybe it was the old-timey black and white film grain that made this feel like it was truly made in the 1940s when such incredible special effects weren't possible, or maybe not. But either way, Godzilla looked amazing, and all of the destruction felt real. Typically, in modern action movies, that third act becomes a huge cacophony of lasers and explosions that are so intense you just can't follow what's happening. This movie didn't go that route. The third act, of course, was still the most action-packed, but the action was never hard to follow, and the explosions and destruction felt more important and critical than a typical action movie. And in typical movie fashion, everyone has got to come together, join forces for the greater good, and find a way to take down the monster. The plot to do so is genius. Now, of course, I'm not going to go into details, but I love the ingenuity of the method and how it relied on technology of the 1940s. In modern movies, the end result is just hit him with a nuclear bomb, but because of the time that this movie takes place, that wasn't an option. Now, I didn't absolutely love how the movie ended, because it undid something that happened earlier in the movie, but that was really just a minor complaint. Now, while I haven't seen most movies in the Godzilla cinematic universe, I am still making a bold statement that this is the best one. And if it's not the absolute best, it is the best since the original film. I'm excited to see it again in color and compare the color and black and white versions. Godzilla Minus One is a movie about redemption. It's a movie about stepping up and working together to overcome impossible obstacles. It is a non-traditional family story. It is one of the best monster movies of all time, and it's one of the best movies, period, of 2023. Needing a bigger boat, pointing at Tokyo on a map, running from a giant foot, snacking on a train car, standing in front of a projector,